So TCB dropped their chapter early, and holy hell, everyone is early this week. So early with this stuff. Mayamura posted the leaks early. TCB posted the chapter a couple of hours after that. Everyone's making me work hard. Tough day at the office, man. Good lord. But you know who did work hard? You guys. Seriously, yesterday's video, I asked you guys, well, I challenged you guys to get me to 15,000 subscribers before my birthday on the 8th of August. And holy hell, you guys went crazy. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I have a very secret surprise coming for you guys sometime soon. I'm in the works of sorting it all out, so be on the lookout for that. Yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the video. This one opens up with Kusakabe talking to the gang, asking if anyone's actually ever in the room has been seriously punched by Gojo before, with Maki, Yuji, Togi, and Panda all saying how they tried to punch Gojo, however it never really reached him. And Togi, well, he doesn't really say this, however he's there and he's included in the panel because, I mean, he's got to be. All three Togi fans must be really happy now that he's getting screen time. But, you know, I'm assuming he's included in this. But we get Yuta and Akari, who have both mentioned now how they've both taken a serious punch from Gojo before, and then they go on to admit how it made them throw up, which we've seen before because Urumi chundered after and refought their whole life after Gojo smacked the piss out of them, and then Jogo also chundered up a bunch of blood right after Gojo landed the most devastating and insulting punch I've ever seen in Jujutsu Kaisen. But we do get this nice and wholesome flashback from Yuji involving Nanami, and it's as if Nanami is back again, and it makes me feel warm inside. But we see Nanami telling Yuji how Gojo is able to produce critical hits as if they were the run of the mill a jab, and while I struggle to perform them in the first place. Then going on to tell Yuji that he cannot be kept up with. And at this point right now, this is kind of like a feat for Sukuna, because a couple of chapters ago, we saw Gojo land a nasty shot to the side of Sukuna, and Sukuna walking it off. However, his face when he got hit with that lets you know that that shit hit for sure. It really did hit. We also get Kusakabe now saying that from here on out, I don't have a clue what Gojo's doing, which I do have a question in the first place. Who is Kusakabe, and why does he know so much about everything? Like, what is this dude? Like, he's so goddamn knowledgeable, and I suppose that's a question for another time, but I'm kind of suspicious about that. Maybe he's like a Kenjaku double agent. Maybe he's like actually a secret spy. Who knows? Crackbot theory incoming. Who knows? But we cut back to Gojo and Sukuna, where Gojo is ragdolling Sukuna around as if it is nothing at all here. And I have to say, the reread through these chapters here, from the first chapter of the fight right up until now, has been, I would say, equal, but I would say that this is the first chapter that I've seen Gojo being truly dominant in. For the most part of the previous chapters, I've said it plenty of times, I would have said that this was an equal fight right down the middle, but in my opinion, this is the first chapter where I've seen Gojo being genuinely and truly dominant within the fight here. So, but I want to ask you guys, that's my opinion there, I want to ask you guys, if this was a MMA fight, how would you score the rounds going so far with it? Like, how would you score the chapters? How would you score it as a fight as a whole? We see Gojo using blue to pull Sukuna into a pile of rubble, with Sukuna just bursting out of it as if it was nothing, with Gojo then trying to axe kick Sukuna, and Sukuna just narrowly dodging it, only to retain his own axe kick, but then it lands on nothing, because instead Gojo is now behind Sukuna, borrowing a technique from Killua. And here I honestly have no and zero idea how Gojo does this. I cannot tell if this is a speed feat or an application of his already existing techniques, or like blue or maybe red or maybe even I don't even know, but I am leaning more towards this being a speed feat or anything else. But again, let me know what you guys think of this one in the comments down below, because I was a bit confused about this one. I will keep it a stack with you. I can't tell if this is a technique or speed feat right now. But Gojo goes in to punch Sukuna here, with Sukuna easily catching it and telling Gojo, gotcha, with Gojo replying, whoopsies. And look at these two little fooligans right here. They are having the time of their life. It's genuinely insane to see this, and I keep saying it, and I said it in my previous video, but it's easy to forget that the literal fate of the world and Megami's soul is literally at stake, and these two fooligans are just walking around using the world as their playground. Like, the parallels between them and their strengths shaping their personalities, it really needs to be studied, because you really see, like, it's like almost looking in a mirror for these two right now. It's crazy. But Sukuna lands a punch on Gojo here, with Gojo's hand just catching it, but you see Gojo's cheek all bunched up, and he sends Gojo flying, and my man grabs onto a street streetlight and it's just perched up there like motherfucking Batman or some shit. He's just ready to go. But then we cut back over to the gang who was talking about Mahoraga's wheel, saying how the word treasure is used in the chant to manifest Mahoraga. Along with that, the wheel represents a complete circulation of harmony. Once Mahoraga has been attacked, the wheel then turns to start the adaptation, which got me thinking here. This could be crackpot theory, but it got me thinking. Maybe the wheel turning once isn't a complete adaptation and instead is only the process like what Gojo said last chapter. And for the Mahoraga to completely adapt to a technique, it needs 8 spins total, but this could vary based on the technique and how complex it is. For example, it's apparently only 6 turns to completely adapt to Gojo's technique here, and the first turn happening in chapter 228, the second in chapter 229. At this point, the Mahoraga was officially summoned, and then the third happening in this current chapter right now, leaving us with only 3 spins left, which Gojo later on confirms. But when it comes to Sukuna's cleave and dismantle technique, it took the Mahoraga 2 turns to completely adapt to not only cleave and dismantle, but possibly slashing attacks in general, which is what Sukuna theorized. And it was at that point that Mahoraga was hit by Sukuna's fire arrow to finish it off before the adaptation finished completely. Or at least that's my working theory here anyway. But we are starting to get some sort of, I don't want to say weaknesses, but maybe like little loopholes that can be exploited in the adaptation process of the Mahoraga here. And I might have to put out a video on that deep dive in it, because for the longest time I have been racking my brain on how Gojo can actually get around the Mahoraga's adaptation wheel here, because that was always my biggest like fear within this fight. I always said that I feel like Gojo could win, but the trump card that Sukuna has here is that Mahoraga wheel, not the Mahoraga itself. It's the wheel that's the problem. The way Sukuna uses it is a big problem. But we cut back to Gojo, who's now realized that Sukuna is also using the wheel in conjunction with domain amplification, and when he does that, he can't adapt to anything, and the wheel turns black to signify this, and it interrupts the adaptation process. But likewise here, we also see Sukuna realizing that Gojo isn't using anything but his curse technique lapse, meaning Gojo right now is only fighting using blue and saving red and purple. I'm assuming for the Mahoraga if it does get summoned to one-shot it, but we cut over to a shot of a traffic light that turns green, and it acts as the signal for Gojo and Sukuna to continue their fight and throwing hands with each other. Once again, Gojo using blue to pull a traffic light down on Sukuna, with Sukuna grabbing the metal as if it is a blanket and throwing it at Gojo, and it just stops just in front of Gojo. And I'm assuming that this is because of Gojo's infinity. But the light on this looks as if it would light up red, which I think if that happens and when this fight does get animated in about 45 years, yeah, I feel like that would be a really cool touch for the animators to throw in here. But we cut back to everyone talking, and Mimi goes on to say how Sukuna isn't bringing out the Mahoraga, and then goes on to say, I suppose that means he's adapted to Unlimited Void 5 times, in which Hikaru replies that I suppose it means the wheel needs to turn several times in order to adapt to Gojo's ability, which is what I've just said. It kind of gives more credibility to it, but I'm also not too sure. And Kusakabe then is also going on and saying, I suppose it is possible considering how little regard that these two have for what is impossible. But we cut back over to Gojo and Sukuna, who are just casually walking in the street, having a nice little conversation about the Mahoraga's wheel, with Gojo confirming that the wheel now only has 3 spins left until it adapts to Gojo's infinity, with Sukuna now laughing, saying as if it looks as if we have ourselves a little countdown to when that smirk will get wiped off your face, that is. With Gojo getting all of his peggies out with a big cheesy smile, saying, and then saying how he'll beat Sukuna dead before those 3 spins even hit, which is where we then cut back to Yuji, Hana, Kashimo, and Shoso, with Hana asking, has he forgotten about Megami? Like, what is going on with Yuji saying, he might have, and Kashimo saying, let him forget. And at this point, I think Kashimo is now only interested in fighting the winner of this fight. But good lord, these chapters have been insane, like genuinely. I feel like we are just getting nothing but heat, flames, and fire right now, like genuinely. Every day I wake up and just praise Gege for creating the series of Jujutsu Kaisen right here, but it is hard to control the inner fanboy sometimes when I'm trying to do these videos. Like, can't lie, like the excitement gets over me. It's hard to take an unbiased and uncentered approach to these reviews sometimes. The fanboy in me does some slip out sometimes, and it's hard to not be a fan like this. But that is everything from me. Let me know what you thought of the chapter in the comments down below, and sadly we are on a break next week, but that is okay. It's fine, don't worry about it. We'll be back before you even know it. But if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for that massive PP energy. Make sure, you know, the studies are showing that we get massive PP energy when you subscribe and like the video, and even more PP energy when you comment on it. But that is everything from me. I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love. Big kisses. Peace.